All right. Good morning, everyone. We are going to take just a quick second to make sure that everyone is in the room. We have quite a crowd this morning, and also make sure that everyone actually has access to record before we begin. So if you can give us just a quick moment, a few seconds, we'll have everything all set and ready to go before we kick off. All right, everyone, I think we are set and good to go. I have seen a few questions pop up already about audio and recordings. A recording of this will be made available afterwards, so just keep an eye out for that. My name is Dana Porter. I am the Public Affairs Section Manager for the Wisconsin Department of Natural Resources. This media briefing is for the 2023 Wolf Management Plan. So right off the top, I do want to get through a few housekeeping things. There is going to be a news release with the entire plan that'll be in your inboxes at the end of this briefing. We'll send that out as soon as the briefing does wrap up. Additionally, a media kit will be sent out at 11 o'clock. Within that media kit, there will be a sign up for one-on-one interviews with Randy Johnson. Those interview slots are reservable from 12:30 to 4:30 with a break from 2 to 2:30. They're first come, first serve, and the only opportunity for one-on-one interviews today. So please keep that on your radar. Again, that's coming to your inboxes at 11. We will also have time for questions at the end of this presentation. So if you do have any questions that pop up during Randy's presentation, feel free. We'll have an opportunity to raise our hands and go around and work through an FAQ. Joining us this morning, we have DNR Secretary Adam Payne and large carnivore specialist Randy Johnson. So with that, I will turn things over to Adam.
Well, thank you, Dana, and good morning, everyone. Good morning, and thank you for joining us today as we share the draft wolf management plan following all the input and changes that came our way from the public. We really appreciate the input that we received. I'm so proud of our staff. I'm so proud of Randy Johnson and all of our biologists, but proud of our staff and grateful for all the input that we received from our conservation partners that contributed to developing this very important wolf management plan. The department has been working to update the wolf management plan for nearly 2 decades. This is a long time coming, and of course, we began working on it in earnest beginning in early 2021. The wolf management plan serves to outline priorities and guide wolf management actions within the context of current state and federal law for the years ahead. Public involvement has just been absolutely key throughout the department's efforts to develop this plan. For example, the DNR team completed a scientific survey of all Wisconsin residents seeking their opinions and preferences related to wolves. We held 2 general public input opportunities and a virtual listening session. Given the amount of public interest, the DNR extended the comment period for 110 days to allow more time for comments. In total, as many of you may be aware, we received around 3,500 public comments and well over 10,000 views of the draft plan on our website. And Randy and his team went through each and every one of those comments. We also engaged Wisconsin's tribal nations through government-to-government consultation and held technical meetings with their natural resources staff. All of this is in addition to creating a diverse 29-member wolf management plan committee to provide consultation, input, and feedback on the future of wolf management in our state. The Wolf Management Plan Committee was comprised of hunting and trapping organizations, wolf advocacy and education organizations, and agriculture and ranching organizations. In addition to these stakeholder seats, there was representation by other government agencies, tribes, and the Wisconsin Conservation Congress. Beyond the public involvement, the use of science to guide discussions and ultimately to develop management recommendations and actions in the plan was and will continue to be a pillar of Wisconsin's wolf management program moving forward. So as I said, I'm so grateful for all the public input, engagement, and interest in this topic. Thank you for joining us today as we share the changes that have been incorporated into the plan as a result of the public input that we received. So now I'm going to turn it over to someone I've grown very fond of over the last 6 months. I've been so impressed with our biologist, Randy Johnson, and the team of people that he's worked with. Tremendous amount of time and effort has gone into this, and Randy is now going to provide an overview of the plan. So Randy, the floor is yours.
Very good. Thanks for the intro. I appreciate that. Let me go ahead and share my screen. And what I have here today is about 10 minutes of a presentation to communicate some of the key changes that have been made. Let me go ahead and switch this. Okay, can I get a thumbs up? Is that coming through? Everybody can see the white slideshow?
You are all good, yes.
Thank you. Okay, well, very good. And again, thank you and good morning to everybody. My name is Randy Johnson. I'm the large carnivore specialist within the Bureau of Wildlife Management for the DNR. I've been the lead coordinator and lead author of this effort over the last 2.5 years. So it's an exciting day to be able to take this next step of getting the revised draft out there. And so I'll start by just echoing what Secretary Payne shared. The level of public engagement and participation in this has been really astounding over the last 2.5 years. Throughout this process, as Secretary Payne said, we've engaged the public, our stakeholders, government agency partners, Wisconsin's tribal nations in a number of different ways to gather this inclusive and diverse input and ultimately have discussions on the future of wolf management in the state. We also maintained a dedicated webpage to share updates along the way. And so you can learn more about these different steps and the input we received by visiting the DNR's Wolf Management Plan webpage. Again, all of the input was considered alongside the latest wildlife and social science. And ultimately, the draft plan was written in consideration of all of that by a team of DNR staff. That draft plan was shared back in November. For over 100 days, it was out for public review and comment. We got 3,500 public comments. And within that feedback, we heard opinions that were on the full spectrum on this issue, with much of the feedback echoing previous input and previous public comments that we'd heard earlier in this process. And there were certainly areas of contention and even misconception expressed in those comments. But there was also a number of other areas where the feedback was generally supportive of different proposals in that draft plan. And so, as Secretary Payne said, since that time, we've been reviewing and thoughtfully considering all of this feedback and using that to consider revisions and ultimately develop this revised draft that we're sharing here today. So I'll start with a couple, just a brief review of some of the keys from the draft version of the plan. And so on the left, the draft version of the plan is committed to a healthy and sustainable wolf population in the state. Part of that is moving away from the population goal approach. Instead of using a specific number of wolves as the primary management objective, we moved towards this 6 management objective approach. We outlined 6 management objectives that are more keyed in specifically on the priorities, the things that people care about, such as maintaining a healthy population, but also addressing and reducing conflict, providing opportunities for recreational harvest, as well as other opportunities to interact with the wolf population, more focused on the things people care about. And it further recommended an adaptive management framework to work towards achieving these objectives. That draft plan also included a number of wolf harvest season proposals, such as shortening the harvest registration timeline, issuing zone-specific licenses, and better calibrating the number of licenses to be made available in different zones based on things like hunter success rates, the pace at which seasons or quotas are filled and seasons close, that type of thing. It modified management zone boundaries and created subzones. And there was a general focus on wolf ecology, the benefits of wolves in the landscape, but also the reality of the conflicts that can come along with wolves and the importance of addressing conflict. It included a big focus on public education, using science to inform our management decisions, and the value of collaboration as we move forward with wolf management in the state. Based on that feedback, we made some of the key revisions are listed out here. Certainly not all of them, but I'll hit some of the key ones here as we go through this. And so the first area, a lot of the feedback was focused on expectations and uncertainty in population sizes. What should we expect under this approach laid out in the plan? Along with that, we worked hard to develop a much improved executive summary. We developed a goal statement to go with the plan, as well as developed metrics to better evaluate success in achieving these objectives. So I'll kind of walk through these. First of all, again, a big focus was improving transparency and better communication of expectations in this document, specifically to address a lot of the public comments and uncertainty we heard about what will the future wolf population look like without a numeric goal. And so, again, I want to reiterate the revised draft plan continues to recommend the adaptive management framework instead of a numeric goal, but the plan more explicitly lays out what the contemporary science suggests a biologically sustainable population range might look like in the state. So this table that's on the screen is part of that. It's intended to be guidance only. Again, does not include a specific number or range as a goal, but instead, this table includes on the left different population ranges and on the right expected or likely statewide population management outcomes. And these ranges on the left are informed by advancements in science and our biological understanding, which suggests maximum carrying capacity for wolves in the state is likely to be some 12 to 1,300 wolves. And it also reflects the population dynamics best practice of managing wildlife populations at or above 50% of their carrying capacity. Within that space, changes in statewide wolf abundance and distribution would be the result of both natural wolf population dynamics, as well as varying levels of regulated public harvest of wolves, designed to help balance public preferences at the zone level. And so this approach, addressing issues at the zone level, is expected to generally maintain statewide wolf abundance and distribution at levels comparable to recent years. Over the last number of years, we've seen overwinter estimates ranging from approximately 800 to, say, 1,200 wolves. But again, this approach explicitly allows for fluctuations, both up or down, in local wolf densities to achieve management objectives as needed. And so again, this was added to the plan to help provide transparency in what we expect the future statewide wolf population to look like under the adaptive management framework outlined in this plan, including that wolf harvest levels upon a future delisting, when allowed by state law, would be correlated with population size. Two other key additions, I mentioned these, a much improved executive summary and a specific goal statement intended to help provide more clarity and more concise descriptions of the plan's overall vision and actions. So this is the goal statement. The goal statement helps reiterate as well that the plan is much broader than just a wolf harvest plan. The plan certainly includes wolf harvest, but it also has a lot of other attention on many other management priorities, and I think that's reflected well in this goal statement. The goal statement reads, the stated goal of the Wisconsin Wolf Management Plan is to ensure a healthy and sustainable wolf population that fulfills the numerous ecological, cultural, and recreational benefits of wolves, while being responsive in addressing and preventing wolf-related conflicts and recognizing the diverse values and perspectives of all residents in Wisconsin. And just like with the draft plan, we still have 6 specific objectives, which have been developed to really focus efforts towards achieving this goal. And so within each objective, the plan outlines a series of strategies and specific actionable products. And in this way, we link the big picture goal to on-the-ground implementation. And again, the plan continues to recommend achieving these items within this adaptive management framework, which overall is very similar approach to management of other harvested wildlife in the state, including black bear, waterfowl, turkey, and others. Another change was we developed more specific metrics to help evaluate success and whether or not we're achieving these objectives in the plan. And so here's an example of that. This is the example table for Objective A. Each of the 6 objectives has a table like this, specific to its objective. And so as an example, Objective A, which is focused on ensuring a healthy and sustainable wolf population, you can see on the left, the various metrics include items such as wolf abundance and distribution, genetic connectivity, illegal activity, population health, along with specific measures that we can use to evaluate and consider whether or not we're achieving this objective. And again, there's a table like this for each of the 6 objectives. A few other changes made based on public feedback. We clarified the intent of the management zones, including specifically recognizing that zones 3 and 4, which are the central parts of the state, Marathon County, some of the areas around that, include really basically patchy wolf habitat. There's some areas in these zones that are good quality wolf habitat. There's other areas that are agricultural or developed and just low quality. And so we clarified that wolf occupancy should not be encouraged in some of these areas of poor quality habitat, even if they're contained within the larger zone. We also improved some of the language around how the subzones are intended to operate during a wolf harvest season, based on some of the confusion and feedback we heard. And we did make one boundary change to these zones based on some public feedback centered around Lincoln County. Dog training, there remains a proposal in the plan to allow a limited and regulated opportunity to train dogs to hunt wolves. This opportunity would be concurrent with the time the use of dogs is allowed in the harvest season, but dog training on wolves would now close in each zone as those zones close to harvest, whereas the draft plan proposed to keep training open in all zones until the last zone closes. So again, a change to close dog training as each zone closes to harvest. There's also added significance on the importance and discussion of the importance of effectively addressing wolf-related conflicts. And part of that was we added an informational flow chart in the appendix of the plan to help more succinctly communicate the typical considerations that go into wolf conflict from the department and our partner at Wildlife Services receiving the complaint to the investigation to the potential responses and what that process looks like. And then finally, a number of language edits throughout the document. We had a number of folks submit very specific comments on areas all throughout. And so we tried to make sure we spent time to address those specific comments as well as fixing any typographical errors, things like that. And really, again, focusing on clarifying the intent throughout the document. And with that, I'll wrap this up by saying, again, we're turning our focus from wolf recovery in the state to long-term sustainable management of the population. And we believe this plan outlines a management framework that is informed by science and public input, and that can provide for effective and responsible decision-making well into the future. With that, thank you for your attention. And I also want to recognize, again, everybody that's participated in this process, including the public who have reviewed the plan, shared comments, shared input along the way. The members of the Wolf Management Plan Committee, those folks gave up a number of days and many hours to participate in that, as well as our professional partner agencies and biologists, our tribal partners. Everybody that's contributed to this has really, I think, strengthened the plan into what it is here today. And thanks again, and happy to answer any questions.
Wonderful, Randy. Thank you so much. Secretary Payne, thank you also. We do have time now for a Q&A. We do have a hard out at 11 if we do run up to that time block. Just to be respectful of everybody's time, we will cut things off at 11 o'clock. And please just listen to make sure that we're not duplicating any questions through the next several minutes. If you do have any questions, go ahead and just raise your hand. We'll go around one by one asking you to unmute. And then we'll have an opportunity for you to talk to Randy. If you're watching this recording later, please feel free to send us an email at dnrpress@wisconsin.gov, and we'll make sure to connect you with Randy and get things set up. Brendan, go ahead. You can unmute.
So, Randy, you talked about the goal being to ensure a healthy and sustainable wolf population. And in central Wisconsin right now, there's a big issue right now with PFAS in water. Is that going to have any effect on wolves and their health, and just a way for you guys to sustain and ensure that stable population?
That's a good question. PFAS and wolves is not something that's really been documented, but frankly, I'm not sure it's ever been looked into either. PFAS is still kind of on that frontier, if you will. But I will say the plan includes, consideration of wolf population health. And it has a discussion in there that, we've seen disease outbreaks in the population before, and who knows what the future holds. So that'll be something we keep an eye on and address it accordingly in the future.
Wonderful, Randy. Thank you. Todd, you can go ahead and unmute.
Hi there. Can everybody hear me?
Yes, you're all good.
Great. So, Randy, the population estimates have a wide range in Wisconsin, anywhere from 800 to like almost 1,300 wolves. So it's very broad and vague. How can you apply this chart as your guideposts when you don't know, when the estimates are so unreliable or vague? I mean, how does this chart apply? It sounds good, but how can you use it when you don't really have a hard number of wolves in the state?
Yeah, good question. So I do want to clarify, our estimates are based in good science. They're reliable for, making decisions that we need to. I totally agree. We don't know the exact number of wolves in the state. I don't think that's a realistic goal, right? But we have a model that produces a range of estimates, and you mentioned it can range from 800 to 1,200, but the most likely value, which is in the middle of that range, is statistically way more likely to be than the outer edges. And so again, we have a pretty, certainly a functional estimate, one that we can make decisions on. And so the table that I shared earlier, it talks about, this is the point estimates. This is the most likely value, and that's what we're going to make our decisions on. But there's recognition that, hey, we can't estimate the exact number of wolves in the state, and that's a challenge that's been inherent in wolves as well as wildlife management, really throughout. But I think the better question is, can we make good decisions based on the information we have? And I think we're in a good place there.
Randy, thank you. Adam, you can go ahead and unmute.
Hi, can you all hear me?
Yes, you're all good.
Awesome. So the gray wolves are still on the endangered species list, and the wolf management plan is kind of a requirement if they are delisted to host a hunt in Wisconsin, which is, I believe, still constitutionally required. If it's delisted from the endangered species list, how would this management plan draft come into play in determining some sort of quota for a wolf hunt, if one is to happen?
Good question. And yeah, you're correct. Wolves are still listed federally as endangered in Wisconsin. So there's no hunt on the horizon, but the state law remains in place that upon delisting, the department's required to implement a season. And so this plan is written to be flexible, to be applicable to a delisted population as well as a listed population. The difference there is really some of these options that are on the table, such as harvest, lethal control for conflict issues, things like that. And so in a future scenario with a wolf harvest season, there's quite a bit of discussion in the plan about what that process looks like. The short version is we would bring together our wolf advisory committee, which consists of stakeholder groups, tribal partners, agency partners, as well as DNR staff and biologists. Bring the group together to look at the data, look at the trends in conflict, population trends, a number of those metrics that I shared earlier, and really review those and ask ourselves the questions, are we achieving these objectives? And to do so on a zone by zone basis. And then we can look at different population modeling and projections, and basically through that process, develop harvest targets or quotas designed to address whatever objectives we set within each of those zones. So in a particular zone, the wolf population may be stable, conflicts may be stable or low, and maybe public input's in a good place. You know, we would recommend something probably status quo for that area. Whereas in another zone, maybe the wolf population is increasing and conflicts are also increasing, you know, signaling that, hey, maybe there's something that we need to address here. And public harvest can be one of those tools. But again, the plan is broader than that. So it tries to really look at management with a holistic view.
Randy, thank you. Paul, you can go ahead and unmute.
Yes, good morning. Thanks for holding this briefing. Randy, what's the process moving forward? Is this the plan? Two specific questions. Is there another public comment period that will open? And secondly, is this the plan that you expect to present to the Natural Resources Board later this year?
Yeah, good question. So we're rolling this out to the public today. Obviously, it'll be shared on our website, as Dana mentioned earlier. You know, we'll be looking to engage with stakeholders over the next few months, reach out and engage with the tribes and help share what's in this document, including the changes that have been made. There's no plans right now for a second official public comment period. The expectation is this document is what we'll be bringing to the board later this fall. We still have October 25th, I believe, is that Natural Resources Board meeting. That remains the target. To bring this plan to the board for their review and hopefully approval. But I will say too, there's considerations ongoing about additional ways to engage the public, and those considerations are ongoing.
Randy, thank you. Danielle, go ahead. You can unmute.
Hi, thank you for taking my question. So hunters and GOP lawmakers have been pushing for a statewide numeric goal. What do you see as the benefits of maintaining your proposal in the draft of, you know, steering away from a numeric goal? How does this approach that you're putting forward provide benefits over a statewide goal?
A good question. So a statewide goal is ultimately, you know, you're trying to determine the right, quote unquote, right number of wolves in the state. And what I mean by that is you're trying to find the balance basically between the biological carrying capacity as well as the social carrying capacity. Where's that right level where we can find that balance? And the issue, or some of the issues with a specific numeric goal, is that number can change through time based on biology, based on public preferences. It also fails to address the geographical distribution of wolves, right? There's maybe some areas of the state where we can support higher numbers, others not so much. And so the approach we've laid out is adaptive. It specifically and explicitly addresses that spatial component by using the management zones. And I think it's more robust to the future. Something like a disease outbreak, as mentioned earlier, you know, potential legal changes in the future. It's hard to predict the future, but I think this plan is flexible and adaptable in that way to make sure it continues to reflect the science, but also the public preferences as we go forward.
Randy, thank you. Todd, you can go ahead and unmute.
Yeah, so to circle back on the quota question, you know, so this chart is going to be perceived as helping to set as a tool to help set the quotas, right? Is that accurate? It'll be part of the quota setting process, assuming that hunts resume.
Tended to be guidance only, right? But I think it would be something we would look at. You know, there's so many scenarios you could play out. For example, we may not have a harvest season for a number of years, and who knows where the population will be at that time. If it's, you know, potentially greater than 1,200, it would help set that initial starting point, if you will, for those conversations. Alternatively, if we're at a level that's very similar to where we're at today, then it frames up those discussions in a different way. We're okay with maintaining. And so that's ultimately the intention of that goal or table, excuse me, as well as, again, to just help address the public questions. A lot of the feedback we heard was, okay, this adaptive approach sounds good. We're comfortable with it, but does it actually mean the future may be 200 wolves? Does it mean 500 wolves? Does it mean 1,000? Does it mean 5,000? And this table helps try to address those concerns based on good science.
Dana, if I could follow up real quick, you've got a bill circulating by Republicans right now that's going to force you to set a population goal. How does this, this is not going to please like some of those GOP authors of those bills, right? Are you anticipating conflict over that?
We'll cross that bridge when we get there. I think my job here is to write a plan that's based in good science, and we'll take it forward from there. Like I said, there was a lot of positive feedback, certainly a lot of negative feedback, and just like everything, we've got to try to find a balance.
Randy, thank you. Dean, you can go ahead and unmute.
Okay, thanks. Hey, Randy.
Dean.
Oh, boy. Okay, let's start with this one. Any changes to the zones around the reservations? There were criticisms that they had grown too large, and I was just wondering if you can tell me if anything has changed there.
Yeah, so the public feedback there was mixed. A lot of support, a lot of criticism. We evaluated it, we looked at it, and ultimately what moved forward is basically no change, with the exception of some clarifications and how they're going to be operated and trying to address some of those concerns, really misconceptions we heard about those subzones.
Okay. So right now, the way what I'm hearing is it sounds like you're sort of aiming for a long range population of 800 to 1,200 wolves. Now, when we talk about that, what I've seen so far is that number is not including whatever you might be counting within the reservations. So is that, like a new informal goal?
No, I wouldn't call it a goal. Again, it's intended to be guidance and help address these expectations. The table itself, you're right, it's intended, or it measures the point estimate of off-reservation wolves, which is consistent with the past wolf plan. Over the last decade or so, it's been estimated to have like 30 to 40 wolves living on reservations, basically. And historically, those have been excluded from harvest considerations, and the plan continues that practice. But again, it's 30 to 40 wolves or so.
All right, thank you.
All right, thanks, Dean, and thanks, Randy. Any other questions this morning? I don't see other hands raised or anything else in the chat. We'll wait just a little bit longer to see if anything else does pop up. Todd, go ahead, you can unmute.
So Randy, just to clarify what you had just said, so when I'm looking at this chart, you have statewide off-reservation wolf population abundance estimate, and then you have likely statewide population management outcome. So we are not talking about the reservations right now. This is all off-reservation data and information. The reservations are their whole other world, their own world, right? They're not part of this chart. They're not part of your abundance estimates and goals here, right?
In short, yes, which is consistent again with the past management plans. Our efforts are focused on state lands outside of those federally recognized tribal reservations.
Randy, thank you. Danielle, you can go ahead and unmute.
Yes, thanks. I just wanted to clarify, and I'm sorry if you mentioned it earlier. So is this a revised draft, as Todd was kind of referring to, or is this the final plan that would go for consideration? And then on that other side of that, are you anticipating any legal challenges to this plan somehow?
Sure. The first one, this is a revised draft. We do expect this will be the version that goes to the Natural Resources Board, but I think we're also open to making changes if they're compelling. But again, this is our intention at this point is this will be the draft that goes to the board for their consideration in October. To the second one, anticipation of legal challenges. Again, I'm not going to speculate on it. I want to focus on writing a good science-based wolf management plan and stick to that.
Randy, thank you. Dean, you can go ahead and unmute.
Okay, Randy, earlier you had mentioned, well, let me start this way. Okay, so there's been concern about how private land around reservations, how wolves will be managed there. So you talked earlier about clarifying the subzones around the reservations. Now, do you feel that what you have on paper is going to address the concerns of the private landowners? And when I say that, I guess I'm hearing that folks are concerned that tribal interests will overtake private landowner interest in how the private land is going to be managed wolf-wise around reservations. Do you follow that, or do I need to ask that in a different way?
100%. We heard that in the feedback. Again, some of the feedback was mixed on these proposals. Some was very supportive, and others were very critical. Those that were critical often were driven by that perception that private land rights were being overshadowed or even taken away by these subzones. And so that's where we focused some of the changes, was to better clarify that these areas within these tribal subzones, or these subzones around tribal reservations, would still be open to public hunting and trapping. What they have is a subzone harvest limit. So if that limit is reached, those areas would close before the rest of the zone would open. So in this way, it's still allowing a level of public harvest, but it's basically limiting how much. It's providing a cap. And what those harvest limits are is based on levels of harvest that have occurred in these areas in the past. In some years, the harvest that took place in these areas was very low, 0, 1, maybe 2 wolves. Other years, it was like 12 or 15. And so we're trying to find that balance between again, providing reasonable opportunity, but also addressing the concerns within those spaces. So we tried to really focus on what I just described with the harvest season, as well as emphasizing that if a landowner is experiencing wolf conflict in these areas with livestock or dogs or pets, whatever the conflict program, the state conflict program, is still in full force in these areas. We would continue to provide compensation, conflict assistance, etc., just like anywhere else in the state.
Okay, so like the two brothers farming west of Bayfield on Happy Hollow Road that I'm familiar with, very close to the Red Cliff boundary. If the subzone were to close and they were still having livestock losses, then they would have to go to Wildlife Services and go that route. And
that would be consistent with that would be our recommendation in the first place, frankly. If they're issuing or having issues with livestock conflict, go to Wildlife Services. Wildlife Services, our partner, they're the ones that are the boots on the ground to implement our conflict program. And so if that would be the case, yeah, that would be the way they would go. That makes sense. Like, for example, in that situation, if wolves are delisted, one of the tools we have then available is landowner permits, meaning we can issue a permit to a landowner based on their situation and potentially authorize them to remove maybe 2 wolves. That tool would not be affected by the subzone because the subzone is specific to public harvest. In that specific case, it is near a tribal reservation. It's near Red Cliff. We would continue to work with Red Cliff and advise them of what's going on and try to co-investigate, which is something we've done for a number of years, particularly in those areas near tribal reservations.
Okay, thanks.
Thanks, Randy. Todd, you can go ahead and unmute.
Randy, so I just want to double check then, the original draft reduced the time frame for registering kills from 24 hours to 8 hours. And then we had new zone-specific licenses were part of the original draft plan. Are those two items still in this plan? Do we still have this 8-hour window, or is that changed?
They are the same, 8-hour harvest registration, which is reduced from 24, and the zone specific licenses. Those proposals are unchanged from the draft.
All right, Randy, thank you. Again, another final call for any questions from the group. We'll give it another quick second to see if anything does pop up. As a friendly reminder, if you do want to have a one-on-one with Randy, that sign up is going to come into your inbox at 11 o'clock, and those will run through this afternoon. That's the only opportunity that we're going to have later today to meet with him. Danielle, you can go ahead and unmute.
Hi, thanks again. I just wanted to touch on, and forgive me if this was also mentioned, on the closure of zones, if there were to be a wolf hunt in the future. Short of any changes to state law, there's nothing in this plan that would change the 24-hour notice requirement. Is that right?
Correct. When a zone is closed by the department, statute requires at least basically 24 hours public notice. So we can't, that's outside of our authority at this point. But these harvest proposals that we're putting forward, I think will significantly increase our ability to regulate that harvest and make sure we hit those harvest quotas more closely.
Randy, thank you. Any other questions, please feel free to raise your hand. Otherwise, we will get ready to hit send on this news release as soon as the briefing does wrap up. I think that since we are not seeing any hands up currently or questions in the chat, we're going to go ahead and wrap things up for this media briefing. If you are watching a recording of this and you have any questions that come through later on, please feel free to shoot us an email at dnrpress@wisconsin.gov, and we will get you connected to all the parties that need to be on that chain. Otherwise, we will send out that release in just a moment. And again, the desk side signups as well as the media kit will be in your inbox at 11. With that, thank you, Secretary Payne and Randy. We will close things up. Enjoy the rest of your day, everyone.